Well, hello there. My name is Sometimes Heather and I play Elder Scrolls Online. Last time, I took Anuéll Rose, my Templar vampire, around banished cells, and today, I wanted to show you her build in more detail. I've taken a craftable armor set from the Gold Coast as the basis of this one, and I feel Anuéll turned out pretty fun to play with. Let's start with our backup weapon, which is a lightning staff. First, we have Radiant Ward. This grants Anuéll a damage shield for 6 seconds at a time. This shield absorbs a set amount of damage while it lasts. As Radiant Ward is cast, the shield deals out a set amount of magic damage. Each enemy hit increases the shield's strength. I really like this one, it's fun and flashy. Next, we have Channeled Focus. This draws a rune on the ground and grants Anuéll Major Resolve for 25 seconds at a time. Major Resolve increases physical and spell resistance, so it is a good fortification to have. While the rune is active, it heals Anuéll for a bit every second. Standing in the rune increases healing done. I do believe this would work well for a heal build as well. Moving on, we have Purifying Light. This summons an expanding beam of light and deals a set amount of magic damage to an enemy while marking them for 6 seconds. As the duration ends, the beam explodes to deal a large amount of magic damage. This also heals Anuéll and her allies over 10 seconds. I chose this due to the amount of damage Purifying Light does, but perhaps another overtime ability would work here as well. Then, Living Dark. This is my favorite of all Templar abilities. Living Dark wraps Anuéll inside an orb of darkness, which shields her from incoming damage while lashing it back out at enemies. As the orb does damage, it also heals Anuéll and slows down enemies. All these effects can occur once every half seconds. Last, on this weapon we have Blood Mist. This turns Anuéll into red mist, while allowing her to leap at unsuspecting enemies to deal a set amount of magic damage over 20 seconds and to heal for a fraction of damage done while Blood Mist is active. Vampire passives give this an added boost, so be sure to purchase those. I had forgotten, so my dungeon run damage numbers might be a bit off. Let's move on to our main weapon, another lightning staff. First, we have one of our spammers, Shock Clench from Destro Staff. This deals a set amount of shock damage to a single enemy while granting them a concussion. Upon impact, an explosion follows to deal shock damage to all enemies around. This is a fun ability, and since there is no delay or overtime effect, it's an excellent spammer. Then, our second spammable, Hades Magica. This summons a shield around Anuéll for 6 seconds at a time. While it lingers, the shield absorbs damage, replenishing Magica every time it does so. This comes from light armor skill line, and the amount of Magica restored is increased by every piece of light armor you wear. But how can a shield be a spammer? Well, stick around until the helm part and find out. Next, we have the finisher. Radiant Glory is a channeled ability which burns an enemy with a set amount of magic damage over 1.8 seconds. It deals up to 480% more damage to enemies with less than half their health remaining. Radiant Glory also restores Magica to Anuéll and heals her for a bit. All in all, this is a pretty perfect ability despite its ties to the light. I had difficulties justifying this in my personal lore, and the best explanation I could come up with is that Anuéll, before leaning at Mother Lamay's altar, was a priest of light who now uses the tricks of her past to destroy all those who stand in her way. It limps, yes, like I took an arrow in the knee. Then we have Vampire's Bane. This deals a set amount of flame damage upon an enemy and then a larger amount of flame damage over 13 seconds. When cast, This grants Anuéll Major Savagery and Major Prophecy, which boost weapon and spell critical rating. Simply because of the buffs, I would say this is a must in a Templar's weapon bar. Last, we have Solar Barrage. This pulsates out magic damage every 2 seconds and increases the damage done by class abilities by 5%. While this is active, Anuéll gains Empower, which increases damage done by heavy attacks against monsters by 70%. This is another must for any Templar. Our ultimate Natronalma is the Swarming Scion. This turns Anuéll into a monstrous being surrounded by shrieking bats that quell out the last remaining bits of light in her.
This is not what I was built for. So this is how it ends.
Sure. Our abilities mostly come from Adric's Spear, Dawn's Wrath, Restoring Light, Destruction Staff, Vampire, and Light Armor skill lines. I would recommend that you purchase all passives in these skill lines and also racial passives. I went with Dunmer due to personal preference, but High Elf and Breton should work well too. As Anuéll is a Magicka character, we have all of our attribute points on Magicka. We walk under the Lover boon to maximize physical and spell penetration. Now, to champion points. Am I good with these? No. Should you trust me? Hell no. In Warfare, my active stars are Fighting Finesse, Thaumaturge, Wrathful Strikes, and Untamed Aggression. In Fitness, I've gone with my usual Siphoning spells, Rejuvenation, Fortified, and Boundless Vitality. In Crafts, I have Master Gatherer, Treasure Hunter, Homemaker, and Plentiful Harvest. Do choose the craft stars that make playing fun for you. And last, gear. Pelinal's Wrath piqued my interest a while back, and now I finally dare try it. This is a craftable set from the Gold Coast. Pelinal's Wrath, like all craftable sets, can be made in any weight and trait. I chose light armor and made all pieces divine. Pelinal's Wrath adds to weapon and spell damage and offensive penetration. With all 5 pieces equipped, an interesting perk is unlocked. Whenever you kill an enemy, you gain a damage shield that absorbs a set amount of damage over 10 seconds. This alone would be grand, but you also get a stack of Wrath of Whitestrike for the same amount of time. Each stack gives a boost to weapon and spell damage and also deals a set amount of Oblivion damage. On Anuéll, not enemies. This is a super fun set that feels absolutely bonkers to play with. I noted pretty early on that the amount of damage this set does is quite high. Negating it with healing abilities is almost impossible, so I had the bright idea to pair this with another craftable set. Vampire's Kiss comes from the base game. You can create it in Alikir Desert, Eastmarch, and Malbaldor. I have this set covering all weapon and jewelry slots. Vampire's Kiss adds to maximum stamina, maximum magicka, and weapon and spell damage. With all 5 pieces equipped, you'll heal for a set amount over 10 seconds whenever you kill an enemy. Vampire's Kiss cancels out the damage from Pelinal almost perfectly, so they're a great match. For our monster set, I chose Infernal Guardian. The helm drops when you slay the last boss in City of Ash 1 in Veteran. Shoulders can be purchased from undaunted vendors. Infernal Guardian adds to maximum magicka. With both pieces on, this turns Harness Magicka into a damage-dealing spammer. Whenever you apply a damage shield to yourself or an ally, Infernal Guardian has a 50% chance to lob 3 flaming mortars at the enemy furthest away from you. These mortars deal damage to the initial target and also all enemies around. This is the most fun monster set I've ever tried, and I really do recommend getting it from City of Ash 1. I thought the damage shield from Pelinal's Wrath would trigger the mortars, but I doubt that. If you have accurate info, please share in the comments. Figuring out how to wear Pelinal's rod without spending half of my gaming time lying face down in a puddle watching a death recap was a challenge. I wanted it to obey my spells and pure willpower, but no. Only a set of salvation kept excessive death at large and turned Anuéll from an unreasonably mortal weakling to a goddess of hellfire. Even though Templars aren't that familiar to me, and I probably could have made better choices with the abilities on Anuél's backup weapon, this build still turned out a lot of fun to play with. I do hope you'll enjoy this one as much as I have. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Ta!